So Ryan, yesterday at the press conference, I think you said 22:30 would be a good day at the office. So the question is, where did that come from?
So I guess just to clarify, so we had a bit of technical difficulties on the field, and so the 23. So we had technical misfunction or dysfunction on the actual lasers. So unfortunately, it was not 23:38, and it was about 22:50. And so I'm really happy with 22:50, and that's not, unfortunately, not an official mark. That was pulled tape after the comp, and so we're they're in the process of trying to remedy it, because so what happened is the laser got bumped somehow early in the comp, and so, or even before the comp, and so it was giving consistent measurements, but they were consistently incorrect. And so the laser itself wasn't misfunctioning in terms of the distance it was reading, it was just reading the wrong distance. So the actual mark was, I think I had about 22:30, and then the other one was measured afterwards at 22:50 with the true tape measure. And so I'm really happy with that mark. It's not 23:38, but I've thrown over 23 a number of times and kind of know what that feels like. And so we're not quite there yet, but 22:50 from a static start while in heavy training was a fantastic throw for me. So I'm really happy with my performance today, and excited for what this indicates, because last year I opened with the world record. I believe it was 22:82. And I'm in a totally different part of my training. 2021, I was coming off of the 2020 COVID season, and it felt like I had 16 months of off season, where I'm coming off of 3.5 months of off season, finishing the season in September. So I'm really excited about how I threw today. Even surprised myself a little bit. So 22:50 was a great start, and looking forward to building up from here.
And given, like, I'm sure you know intuitively how big a distance is when it leaves your hand, like, did you suspect something was up during the competition when you saw that mark?
Yeah, because I knew. So the surprising thing is the 22:50 was a fantastic throw for me. That's farther than anything I've been throwing in practice, and really farther than I was expecting to throw. So when I let that go, I was like, oh, that's a fantastic throw. But I knew when it landed, I was like, that's a really good throw for January. That's not a really good throw in terms of a lifetime best. And just because physically I'm pretty big and I'm strong right now, but I've done no speed work and really not much in terms of plyos or anything to make me more dynamic, and that's really where all those far throws come from. And so I can throw, just kind of blast away at 22, but I don't really have that speed and rhythm to go into the 23s quite yet.
So when exactly did they tell you that the measurement was off?
There wasn't really a specific point. It was more like I let it go, saw it come up on the board as 23:38, and then went to them and they said that's not correct. Unfortunately, the discrepancy was what was the laser actually measuring, and at the time they thought that the mistake was on the reader board, and that the actual laser was correct. So they were thinking, okay, it's not 23:38, but it's another distance that's not being displayed. And so there was a little bit of a miscommunication on where the actual error came from.
I'm sure where that's disappointing, like, you're obviously already very close to the world indoor record with that 22:50-ish. That must leave you in a very positive place going forward.
Yeah, I wasn't at all disappointed with the whole miss mark. If it was continuing forward of saying it was 23:38, I think I'd be more disappointed, knowing that I didn't throw that. And so I had the goal of coming in and wanted to throw. My top end goal was throwing farther than I've ever thrown at Millrose, and I did that. And so I'm really happy and glad just to be here in front of you guys to kind of clear up the discrepancy. Because the worst thing for me in this situation would that 23:38 standing as my personal best, when that's not actually what I've thrown.
You said yesterday you've got a new training style. What's different?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think. So it's just a different program in terms of how my week is scheduled, and I've been throwing more heavier shots than I ever have, and then just doing the way the workout is structured. So I've in the past done kind of a French contrast style training for the people that want to get a little bit more technical in terms of plyos, with a heavy movement and then a heavy plyo. Body weight plyo, light plyo is kind of the classic structure that's pretty well known. And so now I've been trying to kind of oscillate my training a little bit and adding in some new types of high intensity plyometrics along with my strength training. So it's kind of like a heavy lift matched with a heavy plyometric, and then a speed lift matched with a speed plyo, if that makes sense. So it's a different structure that I feel like is extremely innovative. I haven't seen anybody else doing it, and I feel like I've kind of come up with the system on my own. So far the results have been really good, but it's also extremely taxing on the body. So that's a good thing right now, is that I feel like I'm making a lot of progress on the new program, but it's also beat me down a fair amount. So once I taper off and deload in the weight room and quit throwing heavy shots, I think I'll be able to be at all-time highs. But to get to all-time highs, you kind of have to be at all-time lows.
Thanks, Ryan.